weekly, see what's going on here on Bitcoin. So far, it's looking good. This is a pretty nice reaction that we've had so far on the weekly candle. I'd really like to see the weekly candle engulf this previous red candle. That would be very bullish if we could do that. Um, but so far, it's looking like a pretty good bounce. Go down to like the 3 day. And what we were looking at last time was we hit this fib level right here. I forgot I had all that on there. Oh, sorry, my cat's walking on my keyboard. Let's see. Alright, so what we were looking at last time is we came to that fib right there. If you do non-log, we hit the 0.5. So that's where that buy support came in. Algorithms were buying. We got the strong reaction, and currently we are, on the way up and rejected on a 0.5. This is what I was watching yesterday. Pull from the top down to where we made the low here on the fib, and you can see we rejected at that 0.5. So we're between 2.5s. We're between 2.5s in this range now. So we've rejected there, we've bounced there. We're in this range. I'm actually looking for if this is going to be some kind of running flat type deal. Whether it was like that or this could have been an expanded flat like I talked about last time, where it was something like that, where this might have been some kind of ending fifth, but it doesn't look like it has 5 waves. I don't know, but this is very clear, like three wave up, down. That could have been an expanded flat. Textbook, take out the highs and then sweep the lows of the A. So that was a textbook expanded flat. So that could be done if we're banking on that being the end of the correction, or if it was something, like this. Either way, some kind of running flat like that. Let me take this off. Either way, if we were expecting this to be the low on that 0.5 right there, we'd be wanting to buy the first pullback. And so, that's normally what I do when market structure changes. We're getting lower lows, lower highs, and lower lows, and then we broke that. Structure upside, rejected on that 0.5. So we would be looking to buy the first pullback. And so if I take that off, I'm gonna take that off because we know where those fibs are. Then you want to be buying the first pullback on this move right here. And so you'd pull the fib from that low up to the high where we rejected at the 0.5, and you would be doing the algorithms will be buying at this 0.5. And not only does the 0.5, just the 0.5, but it lines up with structural support as well right in there. See how we had some consolidation, especially if you get on like a 4 hour, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. So see how that was support, resistance, and now it should be support again. So if we come down, where I would be looking at is this 0.5 right in here. And the good thing with that is, if it's going to hold all this structural support, you could get a wick down just because people get over leveraged and you end up with liquidation. You could get a drive lower, but if you were to get in, I would probably have my stop just below the 618, and then I would be targeting at least the local high that we pulled the fib off of up here at the 0.5 where we rejected. And so I would expect if this is going to play out, it's probably going to look something like this. Might chop around. Hopefully it gives us something real clean like that where you can actually put some structure on it. You end up with some kind of channel like this. That would be ideal. And then you get the wick down to the 0.5 right here to be the low, and then off of that low you have a little move and a pullback of that little swing, and then it starts to take off and you break out of this structure. So that would be ideal. That's what I'm kind of looking for. And really, the quicker that this comes down, the more conviction I'll have in going really big. So like if this was to just like rip down like that, I would really be trying to play this bounce. I would be laddering in like crazy right in here if it happened this fast, because normally it's just a deviation, and it's going to have to kind of come back to a level kind of like that if you were to put a trend line on it, and then it might come down again and then bounce. So I'm watching to see how fast this will come down. If it comes down quick, I'll go in pretty heavy just for this bounce, and I would probably have a tighter take profit at that point. Like if I was laddering in here, I would have a tight, well, I'd probably still have a stop below the 618, but I would do more of a 1-to-1, because I would just be trying to play this deviation back up if it was to crash down real quick. But if it was to take a little more time to play out, as I showed before, if we kind of do something like this and have to make our way down in some kind of channel like that, then I would be more inclined to hold for higher targets like the local high. So if we had something like that, if I was entering, I would be targeting the local high up here, because it's just had more time to correct. It should lead to more of an expansive move that could equal the length of this one. So that's another way you can find targets, is go from the low to the high or your fib extension, and then go to the low of the correction of that move, and you can extend out to see where a 1-to-1 might be. So the 1-to-1's up here. If it's going to go back up there, it's probably going to go back to all-time highs, so I'd probably just keep holding it if it went to the 1-to-1. I doubt it would go to the 1-to-1 and then roll over in this case. And so yeah, I would probably just be trying to get in here on some kind of setup like this, and probably trailing the take profit based on how it looks, as it plays out. What kind of structure we form after this correction forms, like what does this impulse look like, and that'll kind of give me some decisions to make on where I would set my take profit. But currently there's a resistance right there. It was the false breakout level that we went above and then fell back below. So I would expect, and that lines up with this 1-to-1 extension of this first impulse right here, based on a correction coming to the 0.5. So there's a lot of confluence going on right there, that maybe that would be the place to realize profit until we flip this resistance again, and then you could get back in. But currently this is what I'm looking for. I mean, this is the trade to be watching for right here, for this pullback to structural support in the 0.5. The quicker that it happens, probably the more I would risk for a bounce, because it would just be a deviation. If it grinds out like this, then I would just go in with normal risk and just have my stop down below the 618 most likely, and then target at least this local high right here. If not, a sweep of I mean, this whole move down right here hasn't been filled in, so it could, if this is going to move back up, I would think it could close this gap right here, back up to there. But I'm just going to see how this plays out. I'm looking for the entry right now, so that's what you can look for as well. Not really anything else to talk about too much with Bitcoin. I mean, we just need to, for one thing, it needs to hold that. If it doesn't hold that, then we'll at least get a bounce off of it. But does it go to local high or higher? I don't know. So we need to at least get a bounce and then hold at 0.5, because if not, then this could definitely go lower. There's nothing keeping this from going lower. Altcoins look pretty bullish, so I don't know. Maybe it'll just kind of chop sideways for a while. We'll just have to see. And so that's pretty much it for Bitcoin. Not a lot to look for other than this pullback right here. And then just hold long and determine where you want your take profit. I'll try to keep you guys updated though, like as it's playing out, because I'm definitely going to watch to get in on that. And there might be some setups as well for ETH that'll be similar. Actually, ETH is pretty bullish, so we'll have to see kind of what this looks like on like a 4-hour. This just keeps grinding higher. It's a really weird structure. It's kind of hard to play because there's just so much chop in here. You can see a lot of leverage traders were just getting chopped up in here, because like there's just no way of reading that very well right there. All the retraces were deep. Like you get a pump, full retrace, pump, full retrace, and then it pumps, and it's like, is this even going to hold any kind of retrace? I'd be kind of hesitant to try to play a 0.5 on this, just because it keeps like full retracing all these little pumps like this, so be a little careful with ETH. It's not easy to read at the moment. I'm just holding spot. I'm not even really trading it because it's just not, until it really starts moving and gets a lot of volatility, there's just nothing to, it's just too much chop on Ethereum. Let's look at Ripple, because I still think Ripple has got a ways to go. Yeah, so this is what I drew the other day. Let me just get rid of all that again. So I'm a little disappointed because Ripple was just it was a very easy buy. Like if you were to pull a fib from kind of the start of this impulse right here, um, it gave a very nice deep wick down in here that could have been played. I mean, you could have played the 0.5 reaction for a trade. This is kind of what I'm talking about with a deviation, even though I was talking about it on a lower time frame with Bitcoin. See how it really just accelerates down and then has to come up because it's kind of like a deviation from this bear trend line. And then you get another deviation up, deviation, back up. So you'll see that play out a lot in these downtrends like this because high leverage traders are getting squeezed out and liquidated, and so it forces it down lower than it should, and it pops back up, and so you get a lot of those reactions off the 0.5 like that. Same with the 618. I mean, the wick came all the way down to the 707 because there were so many people getting liquidated right here and stopped out, and so that would have gave some really nice entries. But the trade that I wish I would have taken on Ripple anyway was this diagonal. I mean, and a strong breakout, after a strong breakout like what I've talked about on Ripple, where we got above this resistance right here and retested it. So that resistance right there, we cleared. We've been under that for years, and we got above it and retested it. So now that we've done that, you really want to be looking for continuation setups. And the best continuation setup now, since I missed this, I was planning on buying this breakout, and I just waited too long. And by the time I thought about it, it was up here, and I didn't really want to get in. At that point, I'm just waiting for a pullback. And so what you can do if you missed out on that is just pull a fib from this impulse, the start of that impulse right there to there. You can also pull another fib from this one as well, so you get a little bit of a zone between these two. So you got two different pivot lows you can use, and what that'll do is give you kind of a zone in here, so you can see your 0.5s are right here. So you got like a zone of support right there. Let me take these 382s off. So you got a zone of support on Ripple at those 0.5s, and that happens to line up with structural support all the way back here. At least the big one does. If we take that off, you can see that 0.5 right there for the major low to where we topped out at. And if you pull a fib on this from the top down to here, you can see that we rejected probably at a fib. Yeah, we rejected at the 0.5. See how that 0.5 got respected right there. So these fibs work out over and over and over. That's where the algorithms are. That's where algorithms are bidding or selling, and they just work over and over and over, especially on these big swings that are easy to read. So the next one that I'm looking for the algorithms to kick in would be this down here. So if we get this retrace, which if Bitcoin retraces, maybe Ripple could give us like a real quick flash dump down, and then we have to kind of come up like that. And if we did that, I'd do the same. I would treat it the same way as I did Bitcoin. I would be averaging in all the way down to the 0.5, trying to average like somewhere as close to the 0.5 as I can, because I don't know if it'll go any lower because of the support here. And then depending on where my average is, maybe it's up there, then I have my stop like that, and my take profit like somewhere like that, and I do like a 1-to-1. It's just a very high win rate setup right here. Probably works out, I would say, at least if it doesn't, I would say it works out almost 100% of the time. And if it doesn't work out, you're getting out at break even a lot of times. And so it's just that's why I risk so much on these scalps. And it's not really a scalp, I guess it's 2 hours. So it could be like an intraday type thing, or wait one day and then get out type deal. These are 2 hour candles. But that's what I would be looking for right there on Ripple. And I don't even know that I would sell it all because I just expect this to be kind of a pivot low because it retested. I mean, it front ran this support a little bit that we were looking at. That was like a couple years in the making, and that was flipped. Support here, continued, came back, front ran it, couldn't make it down on that push either. So now I'm looking to buy the first pullback, and it probably would make sense to hold this for new highs because this kind of looks like it could be a reversal, unless for whatever reason Bitcoin decides to go down and Ripple does one of these things, which it's definitely done in the past. Ripple and Doge are kind of bad about this, where they just kind of bleed out and you don't really get the continuation. So that could certainly happen, but I think I would treat this as a scalp with a portion and then maybe let the rest run in case this is going to keep going. And so that's probably how I'm going to play Ripple in this case. But first off, I'd like to see if this is going to come down real quick because I would go in quite heavy on a short-term swing trade type deal right here. Let's see. Uni is playing out well. This is the one I was talking about when we were looking at altcoins. So it's kind of got this structure going on right here. We've looked at last time where you have the low that was put in, you have the first wave, and then you put in this like inverse head and shoulders type deal, which is basically just the correction of this one wave, which is some kind of three wave ABC, and then you get the first impulse of the purple third wave, and that makes the right shoulder, and you end up with this like this is just a beautiful pattern. Like, this is what you want to look for whenever you see these patterns like this, especially coming off of a low like that, and the fact that we were in very bullish market conditions at this time or leading into it. You could have a lot of confidence whenever these break, because it's likely that if this was a 1-2 that you're getting in before a big third wave, and the third wave is normally the longest, so you can expect the third wave to be some extension of this 1-2, and that's what these purple lines are. So you would expect at minimum a 1618 for a third wave, and the 2618 is pretty decent probability in crypto because things just trend really hard on the third wave because you have such a crowd psychology type thing where people just FOMO in, and it really leads to higher prices. And now I'm ultimately expecting these highest fib extensions to get hit because the way we've consolidated here is just a 1-2 to me, and this third wave has got pretty decent subdivision, and it looks like it's completed, and we've just went sideways and reaccumulated for about the same period of time that the 1-2 lasted down here. So now that we're breaking up out of this pretty much just looks like a running flat to me, where you have a down, B up, and then a C, and now we're coming out of that. We've broke above that upper trend line, and I was kind of thinking we might chop around a little bit more and get a retest, but this could ultimately kind of go like that. And so I think my first take profit will probably be at the 3618. I'll just kind of see how this price action plays out and what the market structure looks like. Kind of depends on what Bitcoin does as well. But I'm just going to be watching how the wave structure plays out. If it looks like it's going to be really bullish and continue, I wouldn't want to be taking profit too soon. So an example of that would be like this looks like the 1-2 of this wave, and so if it was to do something like that, and then we're kind of consolidating right here, I might hold and then wait for one more push higher to kind of give us that divergence, because I'm always really wanting to exit on divergence. So if you're looking at the RSI, if it was to do something like that, you would expect the RSI to kind of come up here like that, come down, and then make a lower high at the same time the price makes a higher high. And so that's kind of where I would be looking to scale out when this is making a new high, but the RSI doesn't look like it's going to continue any higher. I'd be scaling out. So that'd be where I would be taking profit. And I don't know if it'll happen at this extension. It could happen at that extension. And just kind of let it play out and have my take profit trailing based on that. So that's what I'm looking for right now. And I believe this will be the and I believe this will be the 5 wave. So we have the purple 1-2, purple 3-4, and then we got another wave up. So I'll give this. It could take a couple months to play out, maybe 1 or 2 months. See how that plays out. Are there any altcoins that anybody want to look at? I'll just go ahead and get into those. FLM. Yeah, FLM is, let's see, how much does it went up? 14. So it went up about 10x from the lows. Um, looks a little different than most charts. That one, see how that 0.5 worked perfectly there? So that would have been a good pullback. Anything that you're interested in getting a position in, it's always good to buy the pullbacks to the 0.5. But that doesn't always get to the 0.5. That's where Elliott wave comes in. You kind of have to understand where you're at in the market structure. And so since this was kind of the first impulse, because this actually took out the lows of that right there. If you look at that right there, like wicked it off, you can see that this actually went a little bit lower than that, so it's not really an impulse. I mean, I guess you could make an exception for it, where this is some kind of, whoops, this is some kind of like leading diagonal, which one ways a lot of times coming out of bear markets will be leading diagonals, and then you have a three wave correction, which channeled kind of nicely. You ended up, it was, you could probably count that somehow as a triangle. So the B ended up being a triangle. So a three wave down, and so if we're looking at this as a 1-2, even though this looks like it might have taken out those lows, I'm not sure. We'll just say it's a double bottom. So if that's a 1-2, this could be the 3-4, and this is just very choppy. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at. So if that was the case, I mean, this is just one way of looking at it. So if we did the fib extension for this 1-2 right here, you would expect the 3 to go to the 1618, and it did. Gave us a little bit of a reaction, and then ultimately almost went to the 2618. Gave us this pullback that came to the 0.5 that I showed from that pivot to that pivot, and so that was a good reaction there. And now it's come up again, and if you were to even pull this fib, you can see that let's see, it came close to the 0.5. It didn't quite get there, but it came rather close to the 0.5 and then continued. So I'm trying to figure out if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know anything about this. If this is just one big, you've heard me talk about 1-2, 1-2s, like nested 1-2s. I talk about them almost every video. If I knew more about this, like fundamentally, maybe there's a chance that this could be a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, where that would be very, very bullish, because what you would be looking for is something like this, and I have no idea if this is even possible, but and that would be another 1-2. Change the color of it, and then you have another 1-2, which this doesn't look like a 1-2 to me. I don't know. I guess you could count it if that was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But let's just say that was another 1-2, and you would have something like that. So that's what nested 1-2s look like, and what it leads to is just a very expensive move. It's kind of similar to what Binance has, but I wouldn't bank on this unless I don't know. I just don't really see anything with this other than the fact that we've pulled back this move right here. So if I was like wanting to trade this, I would have probably, I mean, you had a flash wick down to the 0.5 right there. If you're using the most recent pivot, you had a flash wick that came to the 0.5. That would have been a good trade. You also had a move down to the 618 that reacted, and you've gotten a decent reaction off of that so far. If this is going to continue, I don't know, but I would say the ultra bullish count for this, um, assuming this was very bullish fundamentally or something, um, could potentially be the fact that this is just one big 1 2 1 2 1 2 and it's going to break out of here. But if it did that, then it could project much higher prices because this could go parabolic. But there's nothing for me to get behind at this point. I think if I was to think that this was a possibility, what I would probably do is wait for it to I would wait for it to come up again and then give me another pullback and another higher low, and then I would try to get in. Kind of already missed the entry right here. It's already kind of bounced, but I would probably wait to see if this is going to remain strong, or just do some kind of other put in some kind of other structure that currently doesn't exist right now, because there's nothing I see right now that I would want to get behind. But dang it, let's see. So if it came up, broke this, and then pulled back, I would be looking to get in on that. Flip that to support. You can pull a fib from there to there. You can see like where 382 is, where it kind of lines up. So if we got something like that, that would be like worth getting in, because these kind of patterns like this, where it just keeps grinding up, making higher highs and higher lows, like is usually a good sign that it could really blast off. And so, but right now I don't really see anything. I would wait. Unless you just want to hold it spot and you're fundamentally bullish or something. I don't really see anything at the moment for this. So Doge. Doge is one crazy chart. Go back in history here. Try to give some fib extension. Like, I'm really interested where Doge could end if we go from the start of that run to the bear market. So basically from the start of that run that we had, the bear market extending that. So we've already hit the 1-to-1. It's another 10x move to the 1618, which I guess isn't impossible. The way that I kind of look at this right now is that's a pretty obvious 1-2 right there. This could be the 3-4, or this is the 3 and we're yet to put the 4 in, and then we will have one more move up towards the end of this year when everything else explodes. That would actually kind of make some sense to me if we were to do something like that, and where I would be waiting for more of a pattern. You see how maybe not on the weekly, but on the 3-day, you can see how Doge puts in some nice bull flags, which is really what you want to look for and wait for. So like once that one broke, that was a good entry to get in. It pretty much held that, and you ended up with like pretty much had like a horizontal resistance that once we got above, it just went parabolic, and the FOMO kicked in. But you had a nice diagonal resistance there that you got in. It was a good entry. Diagonal resistance right here, which was a good entry, even though it went sideways for like forever. But when it broke that horizontal resistance, it went crazy. And so now what I would be looking for, and this could still make one more high, but I don't really want to touch it. I'll just be scalping it maybe. So maybe if it does something like that, and then we have to like come down and then do a consolidation again, I don't know if it would look like that exactly, but you would be looking for another diagonal resistance, kind of like what we have here. Because if Doge is going to keep pumping really hard, you want to get in whenever it makes these bull flags and then breaks the diagonal resistance. It was unfortunate because I got in a Doge position on that pump candle right there, and it didn't hold above that resistance, and so I got out and just never got back in, and it essentially went almost 10x from there, which was unfortunate. But I think if it does this again, I'm not going to miss out on it the next time, because even though Doge's market cap is like ridiculously high, there's just so many, there's so much retail money that goes into it and FOMO that I still think it could pump. It could still have a leg similar to that again later this year. I just not touching it right now because Doge tends to go up really fast, consolidate for a while, kind of like we did here. I would expect this to consolidate for a while. I'm not exactly sure if we're just going to keep ripping up. I would want to see more of a pattern form like this. So you kind of have time. There's no reason in FOMOing into it. Because currently right now all it's doing right now is just bouncing this right here. So you see we come to the 707. We hit the 0.5, rejected nicely, came up, hit the 707, now we're rejected. And so there's really no reason to be bullish on this, especially with this candle forming right now. I mean, it could easily just do this and like bleed back down, and we have to do like something like that, where you end up with something like this. So I would just be kind of looking for that. Doge kind of tends to bleed like this, and this just looks too three-wave-ish right now into fib resistance, and so I would be kind of looking for maybe a bleed. Are there any other coins y'all want to look at? That was such a perfect resistance right there, though, to get in. I'm just unfortunate that that fake out happened, because I would have been in a pretty decent position. So I missed out on that whole leg. AVAX. It's definitely in a corrective structure, so there's nothing to get too excited about unless you think that the correction's almost over. So this just looks very three-wave-ish right now. Um, like this channeled down nicely. This would have been like the A wave. Then we channeled, really put more of a diagonal and right there. But this channeled, it's not really a channel, but really choppy. That's what you expect in a B wave. So the A wave was kind of an impulsive looking sell off, and then you have a choppy looking B wave. That, and then we've had a C wave down, but the C wave has not equaled the length of the A wave. Just looking at this, just eyeballing it. So if you pull a fib extension from the A and then project from the B, the C wave would have to come down here to be a one-to-one of the A, and that's typically what you would expect. But the fact that it didn't come down as steeply as this down to here already, and we've got a bounce, that means that the C could have just is not going to make it there. Basically just got support early, and the reason that is because if you pull a fib right here, I guarantee there's a fib level that caught that as support. Yeah, so you can see you got a 618 right there. So you originally got reactions at the 0.5. You did have a dip down below it. You got an initial reaction right here where you had a bounce, and then you had a dip down below, and then ultimately, if you would have got in the 0.5, you'd been doing okay, because you got a pretty decent reaction bounce, and then it even came to it and reacted again and gave another bounce. But what caught the support on this was this 618 right here, and so the C could not get down to where that one-to-one was that I was showing of the extension of the AB, and so you end up with that. Now if you thought the bottom was in on this, you would want to be because this right here could just be one big, this is like a 1 2 3 4 5, so this was like a big impulsive wave like that, and you're looking for this 2 to be done. If it was, you could look at let's see, let me change this because you want to look at the log and the non-log. So if you look at the non-log, it reacted at the 618 for these bounces, which was the 0.5 if you pulled the fib from there to there. So it reacted at the 618 from this total move, assuming this is the 1-2. We hit the point, we hit the 618, and we came almost to the 707. So this could be done, but if you put it in log scale, what you'll notice, especially on these big moves, sometimes it has to still bleed out to this 0.5, even on the log scale, which is basically where support was down here. You got this, oops, you got this structural support down here as well. So there is potential that it could not be done, and we're gonna have to come down. Maybe doing something like this. If it was to do something like this, I would be kind of concerned, because that's not impulsive. That's not impulsive. If it makes some kind of flag pattern like this, I wouldn't be very bullish on it. I would wait, because it's probably going to give you another leg down, at least the length of this leg, so you could like project how far that would go down, and I'd be looking for something like that. But you could still be buying the pullback on this, because what would happen is if you were bullish and you thought this was the bottom of the correction, you could pull a fib from here. So you're basically trying to get in on this first pullback, very similar to what we were looking at on Ripple and Bitcoin. So we have the bounce, we're looking to get in on this pullback, and so if it is gonna, what it would likely do is probably do something like this and come down, and then so we'd get some kind of reaction in here on the 0.5, but if it's going to continue down like that and go to some of these deeper fib levels, like down to the 707, I would be a little concerned, because then that kind of sets it up to form some kind of triangle. But if you're bullish, what you want to see is for this to hold strongly and not to chop around and come down to here, because if it does, what it's just showing you is there's weakness. These algorithms are not winning the fight at the 0.5, and it means that there's more bearish energy, I guess, that could lead to this, especially forming a pattern like that. Then I would just get out, because it's most likely going to break down. You could always wait for it to break down before you got out, but I wouldn't want to see a pattern like that form. But either way, you could still trade this and get in at the 0.5, have your stop maybe below the 618 or 707, and just see if this is going to hold up. If it seems to chop around too long, you can get out and wait and see if it's going to form some kind of structure like that. But I could see this going either way. I mean, I really could see it going lower. I just don't know anything about this, if it would continue going higher. This is a pretty big move right here, and for it not to even go to the 382 on the log scale is a little suspect. So I would be a little concerned that something like this will form out and we have to make another leg down, at least to that 382 right there, if not down to the 0.5, to retrace back to some support down here. Are there any other coins? No problem. Yeah, it's always a battle trying to figure out where the C is ending on a correction, because most corrections are a ABC move. You get the first leg down, you get a choppy B wave that typically retraces the A. So your A is this move right here down to the low. So if I wake this off right there on that low, see how the B wave's a choppy move up into fib resistance. So between the 0.5618, that's where you normally get the resistance. It hit it here and rejected, and it hit it here and rejected, and ultimately gave us another leg down. And so once this choppy B gets resistance and completes its choppy little structure, and you get that impulsive move down, you can expect that to likely could be the C. And so that's could be what's happening right now, and this could be the next impulse to come out of this, or this C could not be done, and maybe it has to come down in more than just this simple straight line like we did right here. It has to put in a little more structure to complete this C down here. coins you guys want to look at? Neo. I hadn't looked at that one in a long time. Let's see. I haven't owned any Neo since 2017. Definitely looks like it's starting a parabola though, that's for sure. This slow grind making higher lows and higher highs is nice to see. There were so many coins that gave this pattern right here this year, where that was resistance, and then we got above. This one actually broke back down below a little bit, but once it actually stayed above resistance, it just went parabolic. There's so many coins like that where you got this consolidation down below it. So Neo looks similar to Bitcoin and Ethereum for the most part. The only difference is Neo actually made a lower low right here. So this was still part of the correction, whereas whereas ETH wasn't, because this wick did not take out the low right here on Ethereum. So Neo did take out the low. So um, basically, what we have is like this is the first impulse right here, where I would assume that that's probably the first impulse because it looks that too, the amount of time that it took to play out is much longer than this. So I'm assuming there's some kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that first wave right there. So now we're in the third wave, and so we can kind of project where we would expect this to go. Let me go down to a little lower time frame. Might have to go to a 3-day. Yeah, so this right here could have been the 1, 2, and then we had the 3, 4, 5 right there. And so that made up this first wave. And then we come down. We come down right here in 3 waves to correct this. So you can pull the fib on this. You can do log or non-log. Probably want to do both. So non-log, it's typical to go to the 382, or log, it's typical to go to the 382 because these fibs are much lower since this is such a big move. You can also change this to see, to have a range, and if you look at that, then it came right to the 618 pretty much. The 618 being right there. So pretty much held that level and almost held the 0.5. You can see a lot of reactions right there at the 0.5, but had a wick down almost to the 618. And so that looks like a 1, 2. And then we can project where we think the 3 would be, this blue 3, projecting it from this 1, 2, the blue 1, 2 there. So you do the fib extension, and you go from the low, which I can't see it. Let's see. Right there, right there. So you gotta pull that down to that wick right there. And so you would expect that the 3 will get to here at some point, which is roughly, I mean, it's not too far above all-time high. So for Neo, I would be expecting that we're going to get to here. And so far, I'm not exactly sure what we've done. This whole thing right here, considering how long that took to correct, it looks like this could have been a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that was just a 1, 2 right here. And now this is a 3, and we got to do a 4 and then a 5 like that, and then put in this 3. Because we're in a parabolic, we're kind of in a parabolic type move right here. You know, it's making these It's slowly grinding higher and higher and higher. So, like, what I would kind of expect is for this to just keep grinding up like this, and you just keep getting these short pullbacks, and it keeps pushing higher. And so that would make sense to me anyway for Neo. Just looking at the market structure on this, it's pretty clear that that was the first wave. We had a correction. We've got above this resistance. We're starting to close all of this sell off right here from the bear market in 2018. So we have to complete that by getting up to here at least, and then I would expect to realize the 1618 because that's a high probability target of a 1-2. So this blue 1-2, you would expect the 3 to get there, and so that's what I would be looking for. And now you have to figure out like where you want to get in so you manage your risk, because you don't know exactly where you'd want to get in on this, because you don't know if the correction's done on this or not. When everything's crashing, it would be the best time to get in. So like when we were basically retracing, if you go from the most recent obvious pivot low to the high, you can see that, let's see, do I still have it on, put it on log. Yeah, so log, it came to the 382, non-log, we came almost to the 618. So that would have been a decent area to get in right there. You could have been looking at that previous support right there. I would have expected a sweep of that, and it probably did. If you could trade this on futures anywhere, most likely that wick went below that low right there on futures, because people would get liquidated right below there and it'd grab liquidity and probably bounce right off that 618. So that would have been a good entry trying to get a pullback on this, because you know that the retraces aren't going to be like super deep if this is going to start some kind of parabolic move, and so you're wanting to get in on any kind of pullback on, you know, an impulse like that, especially around the point 0.5 to 618. But currently, I don't really see any reason to get into it right now, unless you want to play it the exact same as like all three other coins we looked at, where we've had this wave up right now, and now you're just waiting for a pullback of that move and trying to get in. You know, getting in at the 0.5 right here, but I still wouldn't feel very like confident about it getting in right there. I would feel more confident about using this as a short-term day trade or something more so than a swing trade, because I just don't know if the correction's done on this. So like if I was getting in there, I'd treat it the same way as I did the other coins. I would do like a 1-to-1 or maybe target the local high or something. Um, but holding this like spot for the long term, I don't know like fundamentally what's going on with Neo, but technically, I mean, it looks like it should gravitate to this point this year, probably this summer actually, if it's going to continue this trend the way that we're going. But I don't really see anything short term to get in on it unless you're just scalping it, which there's better things to scalp with more liquidity than this that have the same setups though. So um, let's see. So let's see. Link dollar. Link is just really like hard to figure out what the heck's going on with it. Like it's just a straight shot. It just grinds higher. There's almost like no, I mean, there's just no significant retraces on it. It's like I don't know if it's just gonna like go absolutely parabolic one day, because it's kind of the same as FLM that we were looking at just a second ago, where you just get this like, and this is on the log chart, you just get this grind up, and honestly, you could probably pull it. You can't pull it like that, but these kind of patterns like this, especially in the market conditions that we're in, they could lead to like really expansive moves, if they break to the upside. So like if this was to do something like this and just really get above here, it could go parabolic. So we could get like a 10x move on Link rather quickly. So I am watching this, because it's almost like a vertical accumulation. Like you just never get big pullbacks on it, and every pullback is shallower than the last, because like this pullback was like deeper than this pullback. These pullbacks are like super small, so it basically just gets to the point where it just has to squeeze everybody out, and the sellers kind of disappear, and you have this like huge squeeze higher. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't do something like that on Link. I really don't know anything to do with Link just because there's not a lot of structure. Normally you have these big swings that we can do. Like we would have been able to do structure on this and figure out good entries back here. But right now it's just the volatility is almost non-existent. It's just kind of grinding higher with like little bitty pullbacks. Like that was obvious. That would have been an easy buy, getting above that resistance. Even looking at the diagonal here or buying the retrace of this impulse right here. See how that impulse right there retraced to the 0.5 to 618, so that would have been a good entry, or getting in on the diagonal break. But now I don't know what to do because it's like we're just squeezing really tight right here, and I don't know if it's going to break like above this diagonal resistance right here that we've been under for years, and it's just going to lead to like some kind of crazy parabolic squeeze, because there's nothing bullish about the Link chart at all. I mean, I just don't know, like, is it physically possible for a Link market cap to just go like this? Because if it is, I mean, this pattern certainly looks like it's possible if it gets above that resistance like that for this to really just start gapping up. Because BNB did something like that, right here. Whoops. Of course, it didn't take as long, and this structure is a lot shorter term. But you see how it just squeezed up, and then eventually it just popped. Same way with FTT. See, FTT did the same thing. So you look at that and you're like, well, maybe Link could do something like that. I mean, FTX, I mean, it grinded like that for a year and then it broke out. And when it did, it led to like a huge expansive move, went 10x. So since Link has taken much longer for that pattern to form, is it likely that Link could go even more than 10x? So like, just looking at this, a 10x move would be right here, and that wouldn't look symmetrical to me. Like I don't think it would just end right there, considering how long this is taken out. It's almost like you're like at the kind of like the beginning stages of a parabolic move that hasn't went into the acceleration mode yet. But I just don't know if like Link fundamentally, is that even possible? Like, the token economics allow for it to go like that? Because it looks like it could just really go crazy if it was to squeeze out of here. So I'd keep my eye on it for sure. Definitely be worth like taking a shot at, just because we've seen these patterns play out where you do squeeze in these like this, and then once it does get above there, it just really takes off, and you get like a 5-10x move really quick. And so it's worth keeping an eye on. Keeping an eye on this upper trend line, maybe having some kind of alert set for it. But I mean, Link just looks like it just goes up. I mean, so maybe it's worth being exposed to it on spot before we ever even get a breakout like that. And then you can take a futures position on leverage if it breaks above the upper trend line right here. But I don't really see anything currently. I would definitely keep an eye on it though, based on how bullish the chart is. It's just a weird, like, straight up, never has a correction, it seems like. Are there any other altcoins y'all want to look at? Yeah, I talked about Uni. I can pull it back up though. Uni, I'm in a long on that. So we'll go down to like a daily. So what I'm expecting uni to do is, it looks to be going into a fifth wave here, because we've had the 1-2, obvious consolidation right here in green. We've had the 3-4, which looks like a 3-4 to me, consolidation, and it channeled nicely too. So this kind of looks like a running flat where you have an A and then the B takes out the high right here, and then the C makes a higher low than this point right here, and so it ends up being like a parallel channel. So that's typical for a 4, wave 4, and now we're coming out of that, and so I'm looking for at least the 3618 right here for the 5 wave. And so I'm long. I actually got long before we ever broke any of this resistance in here, just because I could kind of see the writing on the wall. The fact that this was holding up so strong and it's formed these green candles. I got in on this green candle right here, and now it just looks like it's starting to move. On the lowest time frames, we've actually held the let me see if I can change my screen. Let's see. uh, let's see. Yeah, so on the lowest time frames, what we've done is we've gotten above this resistance. This is the one I was talking about the other day, and I said, like, if we can clear that, I would be buying a retest, and that's essentially what we've done, is just retested that, and now we're moving off of it. Potential that we could come back down again, depending on what Bitcoin does. We could have to come back down again and retest it again before going higher. Um, So that's a possibility as well. But really, that first retest was the place to get in on uni if you're going to try to get in, especially just to catch some of the momentum, even if you weren't going to hold it like for a long swing position like I am with this. I'm wanting to hold this for at least a 2x. So I want it to get to like $70, which I think is very possible based on what we were looking at over here. Let's see if I can get this pulled back up. So over here, that is, I think 70 is kind of quite possible, because that's at the 3618 here. And it would make sense for a fifth wave to get up to there. And of course, the fifth wave could even go up to the 4236 up here, depending on how much momentum we have in the market. Cake is the other one that I had talked about, that, it's just same thing as Uniswap, just Binance's version of it. And it's not going up as steeply as I thought it would, but I think it's just because the market's a little sluggish right now. But I'm still looking at this as potentially being a still looking at this as potentially just being a 1-2, and this being a potential 1-2 as well, making a 1-2 1-2, and we're breaking up out of here, and we're going to have to kind of go parabolic at some point. Because I do think that Cake is undervalued. I think that it could go 10x, and be in line more with Uniswap. And so, just, I've waited too long. Like I said in the previous, I don't know, the last couple of videos when we looked at this, like, the place to get in was that retest right there. When we broke up here and we had that retest, that would have been the ideal place to get in. Now we have nothing but a string of green candles. The nearest support's down here, so it's like, do you really want to have a stop that low? Unless you're just holding this spot and you believe fundamentally it's going to keep going up this year, you can do that. Um, and then manage how much you want to put into it accordingly, depending on how far you let it go against you. And for leverage, though, actually you can't even trade this on leverage on Binance. I think you can on FTX, but I just don't see any reason to get into it at the moment on the daily. But I do think it's going to do something like this. I think we're just kind of at the beginning stages of this parabolic move. When it's going to go like that, I feel like it'll give us another 10x this year. there any other ones you want to talk about? I'll talk about maybe one or two more and then we'll end it. Been going right at an hour. I think maybe in the next video I'll talk a little more about trading setups rather than looking at altcoins. But altcoins are good to look at because I think that's where the majority of the opportunity is rather than scalping. The majority of people shouldn't be scalping at all because the experience level is just not there. And it's a lot easier to make money just swing trading altcoins because you can just buy and hold those. So if you know what to look for on those and you know and you have the conviction and you can actually wait and let it play out, you can get 5 to 10x moves on altcoins, whereas it would take a miracle to scalp 5 to 10x your account if you're not really a trader. And so that's why I've kind of covered altcoins in these because I think that's going to be more beneficial based on the market cycle we're in rather than learning how to scalp. But I know there's people that want to learn more about scalping, so I'll have to start talking about some more of the setups and stuff and like strategies that I'm using and some of the setups I'm taking on whatever I'm scalping and try to balance that with some altcoins that we're looking at. But altcoins are definitely the way to increase your account probably unless you're pretty experienced at trading because scalping's just not really the way to go, especially on leverage if you're not very experienced. But if there's not any other ones that you want to look at, I'll probably go ahead and end it right here. I did record this one. I'm going to upload this and the one that was on Monday that I still hadn't uploaded. So I'll get both of those on YouTube and put them in the live stream chat whenever they're on YouTube. So I appreciate you guys joining, and I'll be back on next Monday. If I start scalping or anything, you can normally see that in the TA chat or the altcoin chat. I'll like share some scalping setups and stuff, especially for Bitcoin, the one we were looking at where Bitcoin should retrace. Let me go back to that real quick. So the setup for Bitcoin is this. We're looking for the retrace of this move right here down to the 0.5 at around 51,300, 400. So we're looking for that retrace down to that 0.5, and that's going to be the next setup I'm looking for on Bitcoin. So, alright guys, I'm going to end it. I'll see you next time.